Okay, I have one, and I saved the most contentious one
Come
for
on.
last because I know you're gonna have an opinion about this
Go on
one.
then.
I'm gonna say that in the course of his history, I will say that Russell Westbrook is
Fucking
underrated
hell. Ah, jeez.
now.
All
He's
right, here's the
become under.
problem then. What we have to do though is you have to do like the Fallen type video preamble. So what you have to do initially is set up for you how in what context are other people underrating him? Like are we talking about like now? Like in the
Okay,
like is it the last few years he was underrated? For his whole career, you actually think he's underrated?
I would say that
What's the context here?
okay, so the context is kind of like there would be discussions about Westbrook after he puts up that triple double season. Like, is the triple double just an overrated stat now? And it's like we were saying how impossible it was that anybody was going to put up a triple double ever again for a
Sure,
whole
yeah.
season. And then he does it, and then suddenly it's like, okay, now we have to slight him by saying that. Like I'm of the opinion that I think that Westbrook was. I can be of two opinions here. That Westbrook was a stat patter, but I also think that the numbers that he was putting up were magnificent too. It's that there's both going on right now, and I think that some people have moved so far away where it's like. Yeah, just like his stats were so meaningless though. I mean, without him on that Thunder team when he was winning the MVP, I mean, there's nothing to work with there. That was such a poor team. Sure, they had Steven Adams or whatever, but like there was not a lot to go with that team. And if he wasn't just hard carrying the shit out of them, I'm not really convinced that that team would have, even though they didn't even necessarily have an incredible season beyond that. Like, who were you even working with there? You had your other options that season were Andre Roberson, Steven Adams, Victor Oladipo. I mean, this is not a team that to me speaks playoffs, but Westbrook was able to will them to that. And I will say, actually, in a weird way, actually, he's actually. I'll even go another level on this that. The modern Westbrook is probably slightly undervalued too, because if you look at his salary, he's actually paid right now
He's paid an
280th
insanely low amount, yes. He
280th
gets a couple
paid
of million a year, I think, doesn't he? What's he on now? Like 4
three.
million a year, something outrageous.
3.8
It's not
million a year.
mental, yeah.
3.8 million a year. So today he is actually, I will say for sure he's undervalued because once he swapped
Okay.
over, and you're saying that like the way that LeBron works on his like all stars, and then they just become such average pedestrian players. That basically happened to Westbrook there. I mean, even when
It
he was,
did, yeah.
he just fell off a cliff. He fell off a complete cliff, and now he's starting to find himself again a little bit more on the Clippers team. He was only on the team for 21 games at the end of the last season, but his numbers all rose drastically. He went from shooting 42% with the Lakers to shooting 49%. And then he went from shooting from three, he was shooting 29% with the Lakers, and then with the Clippers, he's shooting 36%. Like this is the it's a market improvement on efficiency, which is because he's a little bit more ball dominant with them, and he's able to just kind of like it just seems like they trust him as opposed to when he was with the Lakers. I would say that there was probably a lot going on in terms of the media side of things where he was such a beloved figure when he was with Oklahoma, and then just kind of hopping around from Houston to Washington to the Lakers. He really did not find his place on the Lakers at all. And what I am trying to say now, though, is that in some of the history of Westbrook, I think things have gotten a little bit muddled where people now undervalue how great his MVP season was. And beyond that, the second part is that the current player Westbrook is severely undervalued. There's no world where he is the 280th best player in this league. Like he's at least a top 100 player still. Like I can say that with certainty.
Right. The problem is, again, that's why I asked at the beginning, where are we going? Is this his whole career? Is this now? If we're doing now, I think it's slam dunk. He's mega underrated. Like, first of all, for salary, that is a fucking absurd. Like, I mean, part of it, unfortunately, is actually literally the fault of LeBron and the Lakers. By going to that team, he essentially tanked it. Because this is what's so sick about the way that people treated him. Laker fans and LeBron fans were actually disgraceful to this guy. Because even though I think he's an underrated player, that was when he was the superstar 1A option of his team. Where, as you say, he was just essentially quite clearly looking at the box score, like, right, I need 2 more assists and 1 rebound. Like, I hate that. Like, to me, the whole point of a good triple double is it just comes in the flow of the game. At the end of the game, you go, oh shit, I got a triple that. You know, it's like that. I hate the thing where someone's telling. In the fact, if people don't know in the modern day, these fucking coaches even tell a bit, you need 2 more rebounds. Like, what are you doing, bro? We're playing fucking basketball. Win the game, then at the end worry about if we got the triple-double, you know. Right? In that context, obviously he couldn't be underrated in that regard. But if people don't know, he essentially did like the fucking thing they all do in LeBron's career. He tried to hop on the bandwagon and take the fucking super low pay to come and play for the Lakers, and it fucked his whole career. Like, if this guy didn't do that, if he didn't go to the Lakers, Maui, and he just did the move of like, you just take the highest offer every time you're in a free agency or transfer scenario, he would still be playing for $20 million a season right now. I'm telling you, easy. Because his rep deserves it, his history, what he can do. He can be the 1A option on a non-playoff team, definitely. I can tell you that right now. Still to this day, of course he could. It's a bit like when Melo came back and did the same thing and played for Portland. That, like, this guy couldn't have still been like the fucking top 2 player on your team. Of course he could. He just chose not to because he was in a different point in his career. But they didn't make use of that. Like, I actually thought for the role he played, in general, he was doing a good job in the Lakers. I will say, one of his fatal flaws did kill his game in the Lakers. You know what I just said about LeBron, where he just gives up on you? Well, the biggest problem Russell Westbrook had is Russell Westbrook and the people around him have just decided his whole career they're going to live in some mad fucking, like, Emperor has no clothes bubble on his 3-point shooting. Like, if he thought, I'll just spot up and shoot threes for them. Like, you couldn't shoot threes ever, mate. What are you talking about? Like, for the amount he has shot, he is one of the worst 3-point shooters ever. Like, it's outrageous how many times I've just seen this guy brick a million threes. And the reason that kills me is, 1, he is a good point guard. 2, especially when he had his athleticism, he was a murderer going to the basket, mate. He was so fucking hard to stop. Like, I think in the modern day, I would even tell him, like, I might even be a cunt if I was a coach and tell him, look, because you're not that good at 3, actually just try and draw fouls, bro. You probably get the foul if you just drive. Like, the game is kind of built that way. Like, if anything, you're not abusing it. Like, good old fatty James Harden would fucking just go in now, mate. He'd just go and get those free throws and take the free throws. And then the other one that does kill me is this. This is why the whole, like, padding the stats killed me a bit, because when this guy wanted to play defense, mate, he could be fucking ferocious. Like, everyone knows what his physical abilities were like. But he's another one of those players where I felt like they just have a switch, and sometimes they're just like, I can't bother playing defense now. Especially if, like, I do think that was his excuse in the Thunder team. Sometimes it's like, well, I have to do it all on the offense. I have to turn off which a lot of stars do in the modern day. I just don't fuck with that much. And then, I definitely agree on the LeBron one, though. I actually think it's criminal that team was that bad. Like, mate, this is also where I also feel like the other knock on LeBron is he does this thing where, I won't say who, right? I'll mask it. You might be able to guess, but I'll mask it for the plebs, right? Let's just say I worked once with a host in esports where they absolutely, I can tell you, were offered, maybe it was even going to happen, that there would have been a backup host, but they would always go, no, I don't need that. They wouldn't have a backup host, but then they would just spend a lot of the event going, bloody knackered out, I'm doing all the bloody event. Like, and you'd think like, well, you know, you could have had a backup then. Like, well, no, I need to run the whole show. I think LeBron does that, dude. I don't think he can let anyone else have the ball. So I think what happened is, the real problem is this. Dwayne Wade always could have just been the shooting guard, mate. Russell Westbrook had to have the ball in his hands. That's why he's at his best. And I don't think LeBron would fucking share the ball properly, because how can mate, if you're telling me you have a team with like Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron, do we even need any more players? Like, just give me like Phil players and I'll figure this out, mate. This should be winning the shot. They weren't even in the playoffs. I know Anthony Davis obviously has injury things and all this, but like that was so underwhelming. So I agree. The modern day Russell Westbrook is hella underrated, mate. Now, the joke is now people took It's like they do in Counter-Strike, mate. You know, when I'll be saying, I think this player's overrated. They'll be like, yeah, Thorin, he is trash. He should never play. I'm like, still like one of the better players in the world. What are we doing? Why do I have to defend the cunt now? I hate this. But then I have to start doing that. Like, you know, the ones who go, yeah, you're right, Thorin, Ziwu does suck. I'm like, well, he obviously doesn't suck, does he? Like, don't include me in that. I'm not saying that you can't. You're not on my side when you say that. Like, why are you saying that? Like, I just said that and you agreed with me instead of putting the words in my mouth. So Russell Westbrook never sucked in that regard. But I do think, essentially, his main problem when he was a main star was he just let his fatal flaws, like, take him over. Like, here's the weird thing about him. He has such a good rep from all the interviews. Like, have you noticed that? There's no teammate ever dissed this guy or said any of the shit I say about him publicly. But at the same time, I don't know. I can't tell if part of me thinks he must have some kind of mild issue with being coached, though, because here's the problem. In the modern day, you know how they are with the scouting reports and analytics now. Someone has to have sat down with him a million times about the three-point shooting, mate. They have to have. They have to have done it. And I just feel like their logic would be that shit of like, you just have to accept it for the positives you get elsewhere in his game, you know. So I would dispute that overall he's underrated. If we're doing his whole career, maybe there aren't enough nephews saw him, but people from my era overrated him, if anything. But I do think in the modern day, he's actually criminally underrated. Like, especially the salary thing, I think that is actually gross. I actually feel bad for him in that one, mate. I think how many bomb-ass players have still got the big contract now? That's gross. Like, he should definitely be on way more than that. And I actually feel sad because, like I say, it's just politics that's fucked him at the end there. Right.
Honestly, if you look at the people with just flat out double the salary of Westbrook, you just straight up won't even recognize many of these names. They're like second and a half string players. They're like almost third strings.
And I'll even throw this out there. Like, for me, the problem he always had is why I think he had a problem with Durant is I really do think he thought he was better than Kevin Durant or something, which I just think is ridiculous. But I will say, like, when people hate on him for that, like, Oklahoma super team, I mean, the other guys in that team were also pretty notorious for never fucking winning anything. It's not like he was in that. It's not like that team was Durant and fucking players like that. Like, that was like fucking Carmelo and Paul George. Like, what do you want? Like, they're all players that are going to go down with no rings, aren't they? We all know that. Like, that's just the way the basketball gods work out somehow. So, I don't know. You know what's really sad as well? All right, here's the one olive branch I'll give you about Russell Westbrook. We would be doing this motherfucker a favour if we sent him back in time, mate. Like, the joke is, if he was in the era where you just don't shoot threes, mate, his game just gets way better. Like, imagine how good this guy would be in the 90s. He'd be fucking really sick. Like, he'd be an awesome transition player. I'm sure he'd play defense when he needs to. He's fucking ferocious going to the basket. Just like, and he's got a killer instinct. Like, that's one thing I've never taken away from me. Look, I think he misapplied it, but I definitely think he actually had like a really sick, intense personality. Like, if everyone wants to complain like I do about a lot of the modern players, where the joke is, they do play their actual NBA player like it's just a fun game on my career mode in the NBA video game. Like, lol, did you see that? I got 30 points. Who cares anyway? Lol, I'm getting all this money. It's like, at least this guy does seem like he cared. He seemed like he actually was really into the game and didn't want fucking mediocrity. So I'll give him that. Like, I actually think, whereas I think a lot of these stars I think would be worse in the past, he'd probably be better if you go and shoot 2-pointers, mate. I think he'd actually be like, one of the better players in the whole league for sure. Yeah.
He does seem like a player that definitely benefited from what modern nutrition has done, though. Like, if you actually just teleported him to the 1960s, the havoc that he would wreak on these teams would be unbelievable. People would think that this guy is straight up an alien because he is so fast and can just.
Oh, it's just athleticism's bonkers, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think people could even be this strong. Like, he could probably win also every Olympic gold medal.
Oh yeah, by the way, there's another thing, mate. I actually forget this myself. It's funny how it's only when we're looking this shit up that you remember this. If you think about his game, he is listed as 6'3". What?
Yeah.
Like, if people don't know, like, mate, this guy, if his game's like, he should be like 6'7" or something. His game, he could go to the fucking rim like a motherfucker, mate. And he was so fast. It's like, also, by the way, another one of those guys where, like, what's weird is you can even get photos of him where he almost looks thin, but mate, he is really fucking strong. His muscles look fucking like dense as shit, don't they? Like, his arms look like comical when you see like the outline of the muscles. It's ridiculous.
There was a line on inside in NBA Night or inside the NBA with I think it was Charles. It was Charles, where basically they were looking at one of Westbrook's fits, and he had like, it was very exposing. I think it showed like his chest or something like that.
Okay.
And what
was
and
he
Charles
jacked
Barkley,
as fuck?
Yeah. You could just see he's so jacked. Like, he's got just rippling muscles and the sinews and everything. But like with Charles was like, man, if I look like Westbrook, I would just walk around naked everywhere.
There you go. Charles really does have some of the best. Like, he did one that like go away. He goes, where he's talking about Karl Malone, and he goes, even my wife likes his body or prefers his body as well. Like what? Oh, by the way, there is one thing I have to pull your card on though, and here's the problem. I've figured out a while ago, Maui, the actual tactic you use when people fundamentally disagree with you is you have to really test how much they believe that. So what you use is accelerationism. So here's my problem. He has the same problem in his career, in my opinion, that Steve Nash did, which is if you ever go on Steve Nash's page, if you pull it up now, right? Here's the problem. Steve Nash had the 2 seasons he won the MVPs, right? But here's the problem. That 3rd season when they gave it to Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash had even better numbers than he had in his MVP seasons. So I always used to say to people, whoa. If you give him the MVP those other 2 seasons and his team still won the best in the NBA, why aren't you giving him 3 in a row? By your logic, he gets 3 in a row now. He's even better. That's my problem with the Russell Westbrook one, Maui. It goes like this, right? When he did that season, It's one of the greatest seasons ever. He did it 4 times, bro. So where are all the other, like, I don't see it because I thought he padded a bit, but no one else did this? Everyone else said, right, you get the one, and then they went, actually, that story's a bit boring. And they collapsed it. Like, he did it like 3 seasons in a row. He did one another time. If people actually believe that was like some goated season, he's actually mega underrated by that logic, mate. In fact, by that logic, no joke, if triple doubles are that good, he's better than LeBron. Like, he actually should be like the best player of his era in some ways. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if we're going off pure stats, the stats actually, by the way, stats wise, he has one of the best resumes fucking ever. Like, those numbers look like he should actually be contender for like best point guard to ever play basketball, right?
I would say that the one season, it's like efficiency. Efficiency went down in the following seasons. He still got the triple doubles, but he did it with scoring less points on worse shooting percentages, or at least actually one season his shooting percentage technically did go up in terms of field goal percentage, but like his 3-point percentage fell off a cliff. Like, it fell off 5%. And I think that's also where people started to get a little bit disillusioned with it, where it did feel, it was the level of hunting in those seasons felt a lot stronger because he was just kind of, as opposed to scoring in the MVP season 31.6 points per game, the following season dropped down 6 points to 25.4, dropped down again to 22.9. So the triple-double itself was still impressive, but I mean, obviously with news cycles, it's going to be a lot less impressive if he's just doing it every single time. And it's just like he's barely scraping it over the line, as opposed to before where it was like, okay, he's doing it while positively impacting this team.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.